Today's podcast is brought to you by audibletrial.com. That's right. You can go right now to audibletrial.com/School of Laughs and download any of one of over 180,000 titles that you can choose from. And you can listen to it right on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I recommend a new book by Norm Macdonald called Based on a True Story. Go over to audibletrial.com/School of Laughs to check that out. We're also brought to you today by our Patreon sponsor, Shell Baxter. If you'd like to learn how you can sponsor the podcast with a small, recurring monthly donation, log on to schooloflaughs.com/PATREON. Thanks, Shell.
Welcome to the School of Laughs podcast, brought to you by schooloflaughs.com. Whether you're an aspiring comedian, a part-time pro, or a speaker who wants to become funnier, this is the podcast for you. We'll break down tools, tips, and techniques to help you get bigger, better, and more bookable. And now, here's the show.
Welcome to the podcast. Rick Roberts here, and I do want to thank our Patreon sponsors for keeping the podcast alive. And again, you can find out more about that at schooloflaughs.com/Patreon. We've got a fun show today. One of my students, Straussie, stopped by the office to talk shop. He's been pursuing stand-up for less than a year, and he's only been in the United States for about 10 years, moved here from Australia. He was born in Tasmania, so check that out. We're going to talk about his journey, what he's learned so far, obstacles he has overcome and still some on the horizon, conferences he's attended to help him get better, and hosting his own show now in Nashville, which is one of the number one things I suggest to comics is to put on your own show so you get a lot of stage time. We're going to cover all that and a whole lot more here in just a few minutes. If you are in the Nashville area and you'd like to take part in the upcoming writing class, we're going to be cranking that out November 7, 21, and 28 between 6 and 8 p.m. at SIR here in Nashville, Tennessee in the downtown area. Again, that's the 7th, 21st, and 28th of November. If you're a former student and you've taken the writing class before, feel free to pop on in and use your lifetime membership to soak in all the information from your new perspective further on down the line. Cost is just $200. Space is limited, so I would need an email from you to let me know that you're interested, and I can save you a spot. You can shoot that to me at schooloflaughs@gmail.com. And one more note, if you are a Patreon sponsor, we have our Google Hangout right around the corner. It's coming up on Saturday, October 29th, between 1 and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, that's October 29th. That's our Google Hangout for Patreon sponsors only. It's 1 to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, let's get into today's podcast with my good buddy, Straussie. Well, I'm here with Straussie. How's it going, buddy?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Doing good. Straussie, I met back in February of this year.
Yeah, I did the course with you in February and March, yes.
And we had a fun group with that writing class, wasn't it?
We did, yeah. We had some good laughs.
Some characters in that bunch.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then you stuck with it, did the performance class.
That's right, yeah.
And that's when I saw this guy's not only writing good stuff, he's got a lot of energy, and the angle that you had with being from Australia is so much fun, and it can be part of every single joke if you want it to.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking about the whole idea when I started doing it, and it came up during the course that everybody in the course was like, oh, you got such an advantage over us being Australian. And I mean, I kind of didn't think of it in that way to begin with, but it really is an advantage.
Yeah, it is. And tell me a little bit about growing up in Australia and then what brought you to the United States.
Okay, well, after school, I went into playing music for forever. I've been in the music industry and I play bass and sing a bit. I mean, I'm not a great singer, but, I got into songwriting and that as well. Plus, I worked in music doing sound for bands and all that kind of thing. I got involved in that as a job when I didn't have work as a musician, So towards the early 2000s, I just wanted to come and have a look in America because, basically all modern music is based out of America, that's where it comes from. I mean, other places have got involved with it, but I wanted to come and check it out. So I came over and on a trip and just discovered songwriting and wanted to get involved in that. So ultimately, about a year and a half later, I moved over to do that. And I've been here almost 10 years now.
And how old were you when you moved over?
I guess I was 41.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? So you're 51?
Yeah, I'm 51.
Man, you got another great thing going on is you don't look 51.
Well, I think that's kind of a byproduct of being in the industry too. You know, I think as I've got older, I work with people who are younger than me all the time. You know, so you kind of, it keeps your
fingers on the pulse a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and also I haven't had a family, and you know, got.
Was that an axe murdering thing that happened? How do you get rid of the family?
Well, I didn't. I did. I was married in America for 4 years, but before that, I didn't have a wife or a family. You know, so I've kind of been able to do whatever I wanted to do without having to worry about anybody else. Which is, you know, it's not necessarily by choice, but it certainly makes it easier for me to do things.
Yeah, it's an advantage as far as planning your time and spending as much time on it as you want.
Yeah.
Very good. When you're growing up, I'm just curious, were you a big Midnight Oil fan?
I was. Were you?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
and
guys on the
hats?
podcast can't see, but I've got the bald head.
I was going to say, a foot taller, you could have been the singer for Midnight Oil.
Yeah, well, I always liked Midnight Oil, but they weren't my favourite band. But I was into it. Yeah.
They were kind of political.
Yeah, they were pretty. In Australia, they're considered as super political.
Yeah, and even they were talking about American politics and like taking the country away from the Native Americans and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Beds Are Burning and all those songs.
Yeah, and that you probably find that song was written about the Aborigines in Australia.
Is that right? Oh, really?
Yeah. It just translates across to
I guess
else.
Everybody took over something from somebody.
Yeah.
Now you're taking over America.
Yeah, exactly.
American comedy. That's cool. So you moved here, you're doing songwriting and stuff, and then what put stand-up comedy on your radar?
Well, I got to the point where I wasn't writing or being creative, and I can't, not to say that I'm over the music industry, but I was kind of burnt out on the whole music thing, and I started writing a movie. I had an idea for a movie and got the software and started writing that, and I wanted it to be funnier because it's a comedy. And then I was looking at various things to do with how you pitch movies and all that type of thing, and I thought, this is going to be really hard. This is going to be harder than pitching a song in Nashville to pitch a movie.
Right. Much bigger budget on the line.
Yeah, and just like, unless you have an agent or a manager in that industry, you can't pitch to a major studio,
Right.
So I just thought, I started thinking about how comedy movies come from people who have come through stand-up, and through SNL, and even people who write for that are the ones who end up writing movies anyway. So I thought, I saw started looking into it, found your course, and thought that was a good way to get better at writing comedy and see if that helped my movie, But in the same process, like as soon as we did the first class, I saw it all on paper instead of thinking this has to be the naturally funniest person in the world that gets up and does it. I saw it as I went, this is an act. It's not just the naturally funny people who get up and do it. It has to be written. You have to learn the stuff. You have to perform it. You have to get your delivery and all that, and put all the pieces together. And that's when I figured out that it was something that didn't just happen.
Right.
What most people see a comedian and go, oh, he's just so funny, But and some that helps for people with doing crowd work and all those kind of things. There's all the stuff that I've found out since, But it's also doing the work and making it happen. And as soon as I saw it that way, I went, oh, I can do that. Mm-hmm. It's just going to take me a while.
Yeah, it's a process, and if you enjoy the process, then you never have a down day as far as that's concerned.
And someone asked me a little while before that too, what do you love doing the most? And my answer was, making people laugh. And I didn't even think about it that way, that I could be a stand-up comedian. I've always looked at it as being the hardest, from the entertainment industry perspective, I've looked at it as being the hardest thing that anyone could do, is stand up there by themselves and take the
beating if it's a beating, and take the last if it's laugh. You really are under a microscope doing stand up.
Yeah.
Music and I play a little guitar and write songs, obviously, but you always have the guitar to hide behind.
Exactly. Yeah. It's and a band to hide behind. Or especially, I've never always been the lead person. I've done it, but most of the times I'm in the band. So you're behind the lead person anyway. Right. You're not really out front. But it is good. It's great to have had that stage experience and time in entertainment behind me first. That's been a huge advantage for me, I think.
Yeah, I think your confidence and just your awareness on stage of how the show's going and all those little, the perception of what's happening is actually more dialed in than if you've never done it before.
Yeah, and I found it like we talked a little bit before the podcast, but I've built a website. I've just got that online and everything. Just all of the social media side of it, I've got people around me that I can talk to about that stuff, and that's been a real help for me to get things going further than what some people would have maybe take longer to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people in the industry that do those kinds of things, so it's just a matter of calling them up and making those connections.
Yeah, and they are, because like right now I'm a production manager for a country music artist, so I tour all over the country doing that, but I've also got people at major labels and people that are publicists or those kind of things that are associates or friends already,
right,
that I can just bend their ear about what kind of things I need to be looking at. Or
no, that's good to have. Not everybody has that, and some people have a different bunch of resources that they don't even know they can tap into.
Yeah,
for a comic that doesn't have friends that do web design or whatever, you've probably got friends that work at companies where you could probably do a show, or you probably have friends that are connected to somebody.
Yeah,
and so it's about maximizing your connections, and not. I hate the term leveraging your friends because it sounds like you're using them, but you're just utilizing the relationship you've already built up.
Yes,
and you're going to help them with something too. So it's mutual.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. Now, let me ask you. We'll talk about your website real quick, and then I want to talk about the show you're producing now. That started, was last night the first one?
Yeah, last night was the very first one. Yeah.
Well, let's put a pin in that. Go back to the website. What kind of things did you find that you wanted to be part of your website, and what took you longer than expected, and what are some cool things that I know the graphics on there we were talking about a second ago. You utilized Fiverr. Talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, so Fiverr was kind of like a little later in the process. I'd already found out about that from Joe Barker, who did the course with in my class. He did the course with us, and he had told me about Fiverr, and I didn't know about it before that, but I kind of had that on the back burner behind it until I had everything underway. And I had a friend who just built a website on Squarespace, which is a platform. I'm not sure
Drag
what
and
platform
drop.
yours is, but
I'm on WordPress.
WordPress, yeah. And Squarespace is one that you do have to pay for once it's live, but you can renew it for free every week while you're building it. You don't have to pay for it while you're building it. It's just every week they'll say your trial is expired. Do you want to extend it? And you just hit extend, and it's away. So you can keep it there the whole time. You don't have to pay for it until you get online. And I think it ended up costing me. I paid for it for the year. It's just under $100, $8 a week or something.
Yeah, it's pretty affordable.
Yeah, and the thing, so my friend had just built one on there, and she has her own, started a business, and she spent a lot of time learning how the platform works. So she offered to help me get going with it, and that really helped because, I'm not great at picking up stuff technically straight up from reading it off the instructions.
Right,
and that, so it's good to have someone show you through the process, but ultimately the Squarespace has been great, and I feel like it looks a little more professional than the other free ones. Yeah, and just the layouts are great, and it really, once I got going with it, I found that it is easy on self-help. They have lots of instructional videos to work through if you want to find out how to do it.
That's cool.
So I got started with that, and then I've had to figure out what I wanted to do for the graphics and stuff, and I knew that I needed to get some photos done, so I went and did a photo shoot. Having been in the industry, I just know roughly what you need to do for a photo shoot, and I have a friend who is a rock and roll photographer, and I don't know if he cut me a deal, but it basically cost me like $350 to do a photo shoot. And I did all my photos. I bought some props and things, which if you go on the website, you'll see that. Got some stuffed animals and
you work with puppets, huh?
Australian flag. Yeah, that's pretty funny, the whole puppet thing. But a few of the people who have seen my site now have asked me if I work with puppets because I had these stuffed toys in the.
Yeah, he's got an American eagle and a koala bear.
Yeah, no, it was a kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
Yeah.
So like when people see it, they're starting to ask Colin now, "Hey,
so you work with puppets?" No, I didn't.
So that's something that you learn there. Like if you're thinking about putting a website together, be aware of what props you have, because it might send a message that you don't expect.
Yeah.
And so the last thing you want is somebody not to hire you because they just assume it without even asking you.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
But you've done some additional photos to kind of minimize that. And
Yeah, I realised that at that point, which once everything was all up, that I probably concentrated a little too much on my photo shoot of using those props, and I should have done some more just with myself. I did some, which is okay, but I probably should have focused a little more on some just with me,
right?
You know? And then I did all the photo shoot on a white background, and then so that's when I went to Fiverr, and I wanted to put them on different backgrounds. I wanted to the one that I use on my cover shot. I wanted to have look like I was in the Oval Office kind of feel with the flags and the desk, you know, the type of thing. So on Fiverr, I found this guy who I just went through and had a look at whose work I liked the best on there, and then figured out the guy that I wanted to try, and then you send him a message and they send you a price. They do have like set quotes for different things, but then if you have a custom thing that you want them to do, you tell them what you want, and they send you an offer, and you accept it or not. You know.
Yeah, I've used them in the past for a couple of things, and it's cool because you can see their portfolio.
Yeah.
And then they have those little add-ons or extra gigs or whatever they call them. You know, if you want to add a layer of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Customization.
Yeah.
To it. You know, something beyond what they just normally do. So that's a good resource to have. So the website's up, and that takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of drained me a bit, and which I've talked a little bit before about that. I've kind of found that I've spent a lot of time on that, and it's taken me away from the jokes, and I've still been working on the jokes and on my bits and everything and open mics, but I just really need to get back to it a little more.
Yeah, website's one of those things where you're just going to have to anticipate some downtime like you did.
Yeah.
And just hunker down and get through it so that you can get back to the material. But as soon as that happens, there's always something else
I
coming up.
I know. It's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, well, tell me about the show that you're doing now. Was last night the first one, you said?
Yeah, it was the first one, and it's called Straussie with Mates. And since I've been doing open mics around town, the thing is, it's hard to move into doing shows with the job I've got because I'm always out working weekends.
Right.
And so I know other people that are at the same stage as me or a little or more advanced that are out traveling to Chicago for the weekend, Atlanta, you know, down south, Birmingham, you know, even they can go. I know people just go to New Orleans for the weekend to chase shows and stuff, you know, and do kind of the next level of what I need to do. So I don't really have the ability to do that at the moment. So I just figured, well, if I create my own show and have it on a Monday night, or, you know, I can have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any of those nights, then it gives me the opportunity to do a show and also do some hosting and kind of emceeing kind of
get those skills down a little bit.
Yeah.
So how did last night go? Give me a breakdown of the flow.
Oh, it was good. I booked 3 local comedians, and then we did. So I opened the show. It's in a space at 3rd and Lindsley. They have a backstage space there, which, you know, you could probably fit 80 people in there, packed in, you know, kind of thing. And I had 45 payers. I put $5 a head on the door, and I had got on my Facebook and pumped it up, and also just, you know, I think when you do your first show, you can rely on your network of people to come out the first time.
Right, yeah, we'll see how it goes, right?
Yeah, and they come out and see whether you're any good, and then we'll see next time what they thought, I guess, you know. But,
so how much time did you up front on that show? You emceed it and did, like, 10 or 15? Or?
Yeah, I did. It was probably, by the time I did all the intro stuff and all the rest of it, it was probably close to 15, I think I did probably 15 on the front of that.
And the other comics did how much?
So I had the first guy up, he did probably 10 minutes, and then we have a bit that we're working on we did together. I'm doing...
Oh, good.
Another guy starting out at the moment, Danny Kazadi, he's African, and so we're starting a thing called... we're working on a concept called African Australican.
Yeah, that's great. I know him.
Yeah.
He's really sharp.
Yeah, Danny, he's very dry and great delivery and stuff like... So we worked on the concept of we're interviewing each other about moving to America.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so we that was the first time we've ever done it. We just wanted to get a start on that because it's not something you can just walk into an open mic and do
right
that easily without setting it up and telling them we need 2 mics and that kind of thing, you know. But we came up with the idea a few weeks ago and we've just been working on it. And it was probably under 10 minutes, probably 6 to 8 minutes we did on that.
That's cool. Did it go over all right?
Yeah, it was good. It's one of those things it's hard to know when you're doing it because you're so focused. It's the first time you've done something. You're thinking about the bit and trying to remember what you have coming up next and all that stuff. So it was hard for me to get a concept of how it was going down at the time, but all the feedback I've got today and last night after the show, people really liked it because it was something a bit different.
Yeah,
too,
definitely.
You know? Yeah.
That's cool. So you guys do that and you have a couple other comics on the bill?
Yeah, we did that, and then I had 2 more comics after that.
Anybody I know?
He had Jessica Carter.
Yeah.
Yep. And Brad Sativa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good show. A lot of variety.
Yeah, it was good. It was, I think it was pretty well paced and spaced out and everything. You know, I think you always look at it and go, oh well, there's something I would do differently
sure.
or whatever, you know. And I actually had it videoed as well. That's another thing we hadn't discussed yet, but I've been trying to. I work with a guy this is another connection thing, you know, but I work with a guy who has a video production company, and I do some work for him as a trade out for his doing my video.
Great.
Yeah, that's so I'm creating content already, but I haven't posted any yet because I've been so busy. I was slamming to get my website up, and I went to the Clean Comedy Conference in San Diego last week, and we're set up to talk about that. But I made that my deadline to have my website up so that it forced me to get it going because I didn't want to go to a website and go to a conference and hand out a card and not have a website and all that stuff. So it really pushed me to get everything online. The website's still not quite where I want it yet, but I can still tweak it, and I just wanted to make sure it was up.
Yeah, no, it's smart to have a deadline. I teach time management stuff sometimes in my speeches that I do.
Yeah.
But one thing I came across is called Parkinsons Law.
Okay.
And that basically says that work will expand to fill the time allotted for completions. So if you never have a deadline, it will take forever because there's no bookends on the side to stop it. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you say it has to be done by Saturday, well, it might get done Saturday night at 11:59 p.m., but it'll get done because you set that forth. So that was smart to have that deadline set up on the website so that the majority of that is behind you, and now you've got a place to put your videos that you're shooting.
Yeah, well, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to start a YouTube channel that connects to a page on my website, and then I can, you've talked about on the podcast before about linking and whether to use Facebook Live and all that stuff. But I will have a YouTube channel set up with those videos. That's the next thing I've got to knock out,
and that'll take a little time.
Well, I'm hoping to have it up next week because it's important to me. I've got a political bit that I did on the show last night that I really want to get online before the election because once the election's over, it could be done, you know? And I just want to get it up there because I think especially most people I'm connected to a lot of people in America, but my friends back in Australia are connected by Facebook, and I want to get it up there so they can have a laugh at it before the election.
That's good. I look forward to checking that out.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, I came up with a joke last week that I wish I would have had 6 weeks ago about the election.
Yeah.
Basically, a friend of mine, the setup is a friend of mine has the biggest political opinions, but none of the background to support any of it. He's so unaware. He's like, with just Hillary and Trump left, it kind of bums me out. I wish Barry Sanders didn't drop out of the race. I'm like, Barry Sanders dropped out of the NFL. He was a running back. He didn't run for office. He ran for 1,500 yards every season.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would have been a great joke to be doing all year, since Bernie Sanders dropped out. So anyway, I know what you mean. You got that joke, you want to get it up and get some mileage out of it.
Yeah.
And get some run for your money.
I spend a lot of time on this one too. It's a thing where I did about the political race and how it's not a race, it's an election. And so then I turn it into a horse race and I call it with all the candidates running.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's it's a pretty fun piece. Everybody likes it.
That's awesome. Yeah. If you get that up soon, let me know and I'll link it to this podcast note so people can check it out.
Yeah, cool.
Definitely do that.
Yep.
Tell me about the Clean Comedy Conference. You guys heard me promote it on the podcast, and I think it's where you heard about it probably, right?
That's right, yeah.
And that was put on by Brandon Young and some folks out there in San Diego. Tell me about the overall experience and maybe some things you learned that you're doing right, some things you learned that you didn't know about before, and just the overall experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a great, like, for someone at my level, it was perfect, because the people there were so helpful, and you've been to those type of things before. The networking part of it is you feel the camaraderie of the other comics. Everybody's connected. Mm-hmm. Some people were connected by your podcast. I met some people, some of the listeners, who were connected by that. And then you kind of find the people that you fit in with a little more than the others or whatever. So it was good to, compare notes with people from all over the country, and a lot of the people were from San Diego. There were a lot of locals and stuff, but that was great. A really good part of it, because when you're getting started out, we're meeting the people locally here, but you don't really get to meet people over the country, right. And that's how the system works with this business. It's like people that in other areas. When you go there, you want to hook up with them, and I talked to some of the guys about coming here and maybe even being on my show sometime. Good. People who aren't too far away that might want to come in town for that. So that was, the initial thing, the networking part of it. Then there was a lot of we actually performed twice in front of the panel. Everybody in the conference got up and did a 2-minute bit in a competition for entry to the San Diego Comedy Festival, and so we got to do that. And then we had on the last day we all did a 3-minute bit for the panel to critique.
Cool
stuff. And so some of the stuff that I really picked up, and one of the panelists, Scott Wood, talked about a lot is the writing, do the work. He was really adamant about it and showed us examples and gave us a lot of good information that he had to help with writing, and a lot of it was very similar to what I learnt with you in the course. Mm-hmm. The best part about that was it was a reminder for me. Go back to square one, because I've kind of maybe got away from that a little bit and gone, Rick taught me all this in the beginning. What was it? What have I been doing lately? I've got to get back to that, and so that was really good. He just a similar approach to how you expand and edit on your jokes, and so that was a really good part of it. Getting the feedback from people like Eddie Brill and Jimmy Brogan, that was invaluable, because I not only got to hear the feedback for me, but for other people.
You can learn as much from that, can't you?
Yeah, I really did. And, just things that Eddie, because I don't know, most people already know about Eddie Brill, but he was the booker on David Letterman for 11 years.
Right, and did the crowd warm-up for it, too. And then Jimmy Brogan picked the comics for The Tonight Show for a long time.
Yep.
So those are two very seasoned guys who have seen a lot of comedy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to have that feedback from those guys, because you can hear all the feedback they give everybody and go, oh, my God, he's so right about that. Just simple things like Eddie saying that he... don't come out and ask the crowd questions. Right. Don't do it. Like he says, I hate that. He goes, you don't have to listen to me. I don't necessarily know everything, but I don't like it when you come out and ask questions. Come from a point of view of power, where you are telling the crowd something, not asking them the question. And people come out and say, how you all doing? Like, it's just one of those things people do to get comfortable, but don't do it. Right. Just come out and introduce yourself. Don't be asking them. That's like it's a crutch kind of thing to do, yeah. And then his other thing was one of the great points that Eddie made to me was, and this was kind of after all the critiquing of your bit, he was complimentary, but also, pointing out the things that I needed to work on and all that. But he said to me later, he said it felt a little bit like you were reading the part, and I said, well, honestly, that's kind of what I do, is I learn it, like I totally memorize everything, so because I'm not very good at just coming up with it on the spot all the time, and I having been in music, I understand that will come in time, but he said that's exactly right. You need to memorize it, then you need to totally forget it
Yeah.
He said, then memorize it, then forget it. Because he said when you were doing things in your normal speaking voice, it was really good, but when it sounded like you were reciting something,
right,
then it felt like you're reciting something. And you just have to he said, when we see you naturally on stage, you feel it feels really natural and normal, and everybody's going to warm to that, But when it feels like it's a rehearsed thing, then it's not quite there, And I can totally see what he said, and I know that's like everybody talks about the stage time, time on stage. It's just that, I've just got to get out there more and do more.
Well, the cool thing is you got your own show now going on.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I don't think I'm going to do it too often. I think I need to go and talk to the venue about it, but maybe every 6 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I don't want to burn out the crowd who are going to come and see it.
And you don't want to overthink it too, because a lot of those it will rotate a lot. I would suggest if you could have it once a month, that way it's like the last Monday of the month or something, where people just know that's when it's going to be, without having to check too many details. If it's every 6 weeks, it's going to be hard to tell when it is, and it's going to move all around.
Yeah.
But if you just have that consistency, it'd be easier to promote. Every poster can just say the third Monday of the month. You never have to put a date on it.
Yeah, I see a lot of that with what people do. I feel a little bit nervous about the monthly, but I'm still thinking about it. It's going to have to sit. The reason is with the venue I'm doing it at, which is a great room for it. It really is. It changes depending on their schedule.
That's true too.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit hesitant to make it that standard thing, but I do understand what you're talking about totally. Yeah, I'm still mulling that one around. It's like I'm just the dust's still settling on the first one, and
well, that's cool. The main thing is you've got it going, and tell me real quickly about how you connected with that venue in the first place and what the process was for getting that show put together.
Well, that's another advantage of the music industry that I have, is that I actually worked at the venue for a couple of years.
Oh, great.
Doing sound there, So I just went and saw the manager and said, "Hey, Ryan, I want to put this is what I'm doing." And he's, "What, comedy?" He goes, "All right." Like, actually, it was funny because Ryan's like, "Oh, okay, how do I get into the comedy scene?"
Yeah.
Like he's like, "Oh, okay, what goes on around?" He said, "I know the Zanies, but what else is happening?" Like he suddenly thought, I could see his mind turning.
Yeah.
Oh, comedy, yeah, that's a thing, So
that's cool.
Because he has this little space. It's Third and Lindsley is it's about a 500 head room in Nashville. And it's 7 nights a week music room, but they have a backstage space there, which, as I said before, I think it probably, would be comfortable 80 people in there. You could probably pack 100 in if you tried, but they have a lot of couches and stuff. And
it's a real cozy place, right?
Yeah. So it's a good warm environment, and you can't have a show in there while there's a band playing in the main room because there's too much noise coming through the wall, But it's so we had the show early at 6:30, which it's hard to get people at 6:30, but it's not. That's contradictory statement.
They're not used to it, but maybe if you sell it like as a happy hour type thing.
Yeah, I think the thing is for it. I didn't mind it too much because a lot of my friends and the people that I was having come, I had 45 people, so it was good. But a lot of them are music industry people who are used to who go from work to a show.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so bad in that respect, and I think those people appreciate being out by 8 o'clock because they like to get in and get out and go home. So it was good for that reason. And I kind of like the time slot that way,
Yeah, no, it's good.
Especially on a school night,
That's right. I was going to say sometimes on a School of Laughs night if it's on Mondays, but maybe I can squeeze in there one day when I'm not teaching a class.
Yeah.
Well, cool. It's good catching up with you today. In the short term, I know you've got your YouTube channel you're going to work on and cutting these videos up. Anything else? Any other shows on the horizon you're trying to gun for before?
I'm not. I'm just I'm trying to figure out when I've got like a week or two. Or a weekend off if I want to, chase up some of my friends, maybe the people that were on the show. The guys I had on the show are very active and mobile, in the industry, and that's part of the reason why I like to have them on there, because I want to associate with people who are pushing forward and not just, doing the rotation thing, spinning the wheels kind of thing, So I'd like to. I really, and I thought about this today. I really need to get together with some of those guys and say, hey, well, on this weekend, what are you doing? And maybe we'll go and do a road trip and go and work some of the closer clubs because, you probably. I've heard you talk about this too. When you're coming from another town, people are more likely to give you a 10-minute slot on a show. That kind of thing. So, and these guys are already doing it, and I don't have that opportunity. So I want to try and, especially through Christmas and that, we don't go out and work. We'll have some weeks down where we're not touring.
Uh-huh.
So I really want to try. I need to get onto that now, and probably. So I'm thinking one more show before the end of the year at Third. At Third, and then try and just figure out ways to get out there and do other small shows because it's I've done a lot of open mics and I still need to do a lot more, but doing a show is a different entity. You've got a crowd there that are going to laugh rather than just
you got a crowd of civilians, not just comedians.
Yeah, the open micers are, and I know too because I'm sitting there thinking about my bit the whole time before I go up and kind of miss some of the gags and go, oh, what did you say? I missed that. It's a harder.
It's a harder room.
Harder to get a laugh, but you need to do that.
Yeah.
To get.
Well, you need to do that so you get it memorized and unmemorized and get it familiar.
Yeah, and work through the bits, find the funny bits, and whatever. Yeah.
Excellent, man. Well, appreciate you stopping in today. I'll link to your website at Straussie.com, Straussie.
That's right.
.com, and I'll link to that. And if you get me the link to the video. Soon. I'll put this up on Thursday. It's Tuesday today, so if you get it done before that, let me know, and I'll hook into it.
Okay.
And we'll keep an eye on you.
All right.
Thanks for stopping in, buddy.
Thanks, Rick.
There you go, folks. Straussie, one of my students and a guy who's just out there hustling. As you can tell from all of his details, he's doing everything he can to move his comedy forward and doing all the business-type things as well as writing the jokes and trying to find more time for that, putting on his own show, hitting conferences, just soaking it all in, doing the best he can, and I look forward to seeing and hearing more about Straussie and his story as he gets things moving the right direction here. Thank you for listening today. Again, if you're out there and you'd like to support the show, there's two ways to do it. One way is to join Patreon. It's kind of like a online tip jar. If you enjoy the show, you can ask yourself, hey, how much do I enjoy this show? $1 a month? $2 a month? $5 a month? Some guys even like it $20 a month. But if you are able to, put a little something in that tip jar each month. You set it up once on patreon.com/School of Laughs, and you can decide whatever, $1.50 a month, whatever it is. It all helps, and we're about a little bit more than a third of the way to the goal to support the podcast by the end of the year. Basically, we're looking for $500 a month total to keep the podcast alive. Another way you can help the podcast out is to check out our sponsor, Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/School of Laughs. There's over 180,000 titles of these audiobooks that you can download and listen to right on your Android or Kindle or MP3 player, right on your iPhone. And there's a lot of good books out there. Jim Gaffigan's got one called His Dad is Fat. Tina Fey's got one called Bossy Pants. Steve Martin has one of my favorite books ever, Born Standing Up. Those are all on audible.com, and you can get a free download plus a 30-day free trial, again, at audibletrial.com/School of Laughs. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. If you're a Patreon supporter, I super appreciate you, and we'll be having our Google Hangout again on October 29th from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, so mark it down on your calendar, and I'll be contacting you with more details as it gets closer. Thanks again, you guys. Travel safe, be safe out there, and write good comedy, and stay funny. Good day, Mike.
Thanks for listening to the School of Laughs podcast. If you'd like to hear more School of Laughs podcasts, you can find them on iTunes and Stitcher.com. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For information on upcoming live and online classes, visit schooloflaughs.com. Until next time, stay tuned, stay focused, and stay funny.